Welcome everybody to the March 3rd workshop meeting of Marlborough Township Board of Education. Cindy, would you please call the roll?
Good evening, everyone. Mrs. Dean? Here. Mr. Dwyer?
Here.
Mrs. Ennie? Here. Mrs. Cow's not here. Mrs. Lou Riddell's not here. Mr. Marshall?
Here.
Mrs. Matos isn't here. Mr. Lelonsky?
Here. Please be advised this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, the Sunshine Law. Adequate notice of date, time, and agenda has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the news transcript. Has been posted and filed with the Marlborough Township Clerk. Copies have also been sent to each district school and other area newspapers in accordance with the law. Draw your attention to, but I'm not going to read, statement of videotaping a public portion of Board of Education meetings, or public session statement, as well as no smoking on school grounds. Everybody please rise and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would like to announce and thank Tara Gostovich, DMD, who is the district's Emerald Level sponsor for 2014-2015 school year. A review of the agenda will show that we are skipping the student presentation tonight due to the weather. We're going to have the first public session, open to any item, followed by a 2015 school year budget discussion on personnel revenues and the entire budget, followed by an update on district-wide heating issues, followed by a second public session. Sir, is there anything for executive tonight? I don't have anything.
No, I want to add personnel.
Okay.
It'll be a 30-second thing.
Okay. And we will be having an executive session tonight. Okay. That'll bring us to the first public session, open to any item. Anyone from the public wish to address the board on any item? Sure.
Good evening. I think
Name and address, please.
Mark Rosenwald, 22
Thank you.
Gary. I think this board is being totally irresponsible this evening in having this meeting. By having the meeting, you ask people to come out and put themselves in jeopardy on the roadway. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to address the board on any item?
Erica Boylan, 27 Edie Drive. I wanted to say first to Mr. Hendrickson, who's not here, but my children came home and said it was very simple today, refusing the park. He made it wonderful and easy for them. So from the top down, I guess, thank you to that. Second, I just wanted to sort of throw out there, I know it's probably been done before, they said the idea when John said last week about bringing in money for the busing, the advertising, if there's a better way to make money. And I was thinking a better way to not make money but save money if the idea of ever going solar on the schools or the board building were ever brought up. And I'm sure it's not an easy thing to look into, but just a quick idea of probably save money. There might be headaches, I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, as soon as in the public session we'll respond. Well, in a minute. Anyone else in the public wish to address the board on any item? Seeing none. Cindy, you have, I know the board did discuss solar a few years back, and can you elaborate? You're probably the best to elaborate on where we were and how we did.
We actually did look at it.
We had a presentation, didn't we?
We did, and at the time, it would have been cost beneficial to do it, but ironically, and while it was going to take some time, turned out that the SRECs, which is what you sell to the electric company, went in the toilet. And literally, when at a high, they were about $600, and now they're down to less than $100. They're very low, and that's what saves money. And now it doesn't help at all to do it. So it's not worthwhile because there's a lot of costs involved. And many districts looked at doing it and stuff and never went forward. Manalapan was ahead of us in looking at it and never went forward in doing it. And like I said, we looked at it and then didn't do it. And then again, timing-wise, we stopped and then the SRECs went and that was it. So it was, timing was, we waited a little bit and it worked in our favor because SRECs went down dramatically.
And you also want to emphasize, you can't compare, like if I was to do solar on my home,
Oh,
the
quite
cost for me to what we would cost up.
Oh, yeah.
Because one of the other things you have to look at is that do you own the panels or do you do a PPA, power purchase agreement? And then if something happens to your roof, who takes the panels off, who repairs the roof, et cetera, et cetera. So it's much more intensive than just doing it, as Mr. Lulansky said, on your home. It's much, much different.
On our roofs, we had
We don't do back and forth when it's not crowded.
Not really, but nobody's here. You want to do a quick one? Go ahead.
A super quick one. So I get the SREX and everything. I don't know how to word it exactly.
Just need to put the microphones
Give them
really.
the
Sorry. So if you have this you have an electric bill.
Yes.
And so even if you're not selling back your extra energy or whatever it is to make money on that, would it be worth it to save on just the electric bill
No, not the
because
cost.
of the out-of-pocket cost?
Correct.
And if there's roof damage, removing the panels?
Yes.
No, that we had to prepare our roofs, and some of our roofs
Yes.
are not even capable of
Exactly.
putting them on there. So it
roofs
had to
were
be
too
like
old.
total new roof first, then that.
Right.
It was,
Which is a whole
we
new
looked into, we had a whole presentation,
Okay.
probably fine, we went about 2 years ago.
No, it was actually longer than
Yeah,
that.
I thought it was like 4.
Oh, keep going. Keep
5?
going, about 4 or 5.
Okay.
I came
So
on
it
the
was when we
board, I
first
came
met.
on the board 2 years ago, and I asked the same question, and this was the answer I was given 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So it had to be prior
When I
to.
first, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, the big thing is the SREX went down so much, and it just is not beneficial to do anymore.
Cindy, who is our provider of electric? Is it JCP&L?
Yes, it is.
Do we ever,
Yes.
have we ever looked into other energy
Well,
providers?
no, I take that back. It's not because we are in a cooperative with the township. No, we're not in ACES. We do an auction, a reverse auction with the township that we actually do it's a reverse auction because what happens is that we go out and buy the electricity with the township for that every 2 years.
Yeah, they have all these energy providers, as long as we're involved in something, because they
Yes.
have all these energy providers, and I was never a big buyer of it. I always thought it was a scam. It is kind of scam-esque on the gas side, but on the electric side, from a commercial standpoint, I'm saving anywhere between $175 to almost $350 a month on my electricity bill through the store.
Yeah.
And at home, you save minuscule $25 or $30 a month, but
We've done well with this, with it over, I think the last time when we did it again last year. We saved like $180,000 over 2 years, so.
thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, bring us to 2015-16 school year budget discussion, personnel, revenues, and the entire budget.
Okay. Sin, how do you want to start it?
Personnel, there are no new personnel, and we're not getting rid of any personnel, so there's no change in that. Revenues, we've talked about, good evening. He's working on it. He's trying to get here. The only revenue change from what I told you, 2 revenue changes from what I told you when I opened the budget was we did add $750 to the play proceeds because we did have the discussion with Memorial and Middle School. And Memorial, in order to get, they need some supplies, so what they're doing is they're going to sell tickets to their play. So in order to get some money for supplies, those play proceeds will offset their supplies. So as we do with the musical, they offset each other. So the revenue, the play proceeds went up $750. And the other thing we did was we got some additional debt service aid. I was shocked and surprised. We went up $73,000 in debt service aid. So that was a good thing. Didn't expect that because if you look historically, we've been going down in debt service aid, but didn't happen this time. So we actually went up almost 6% over what we got last year, so that's a good thing. So we did, but that does not affect the tax increase as far as the general fund is concerned, because the voters have no say on that, because that only goes when you have and they don't have a say on the budget anyways, but it has to do with the fact that the only time debt service is ever affected is when you have a referendum. So that is the only change on revenues.
Okay. So that, I guess I'll bring up the discussion on the entire budget.
That
Sir? Oh, you got something? I don't know if you were raising your hand.
No, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Before we kick off, I was reading I hate to admit this, but every once in a while I open up the patch, and I read a story in the Hazlitt patch about the Hazlitt schools getting a $2 million grant from the New Jersey Schools Development Authority. It's executed through the SDA's regional or regular operating grant program. Do we do anything along those lines of raising a hand and throwing a hat in and saying,
We're not the same type
Show
of
me the
district
cat.
as Hanover, are we?
No, but we will be applying for money for our roof.
well, that's what this was for, to replace a roof.
Yeah, and we will be putting the application in, and the state will tell us how much money we'll get for it, but we
Does
won't
it go
know.
through this development authority?
Yes.
Because we've applied before, but I mean, we're just applying now, so it won't even affect this budget, it'll affect.
No, it'll offset, it might offset some of this,
offset
but
what you've already set aside for, it'll offset that amount.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
But you said that takes a while to come back. Right? Okay.
That is also this is determined on your district, you're an I district, you're whatever district, is all that come into that equation with them, how
They're
much
not
you
in our
get?
district.
So yes.
So yes and no.
Thank you.
Sorry, but unfortunately, as much as we would like to say we'd be eligible for and stuff, I can't say, and we won't know. So we'll see.
We'll try.
I
We'll
guess I
try.
was just curious, because we've been talking about roofs. One would have thought that we would throw that application in.
Absolutely.
And submit it sooner rather than later.
But it's not just throw it in. You have to, what he's doing with the referendum, pre-referendum that he was approved for, he has to do the same thing. You have to put it in, you have to get a DOE number. There's a process you have to file, and then they'll come back and say you're eligible for X. And then that's what we'll be able to, that's what we'll fund. But again, as Mrs. Dean said, we get that at the end.
So we're budgeting $1 million for a roof, and we wind up getting $150,000. That's $150,000 that's going to go back into.
That'll help offset next year's.
Uh-huh. Can you apply for that yearly?
Yes.
Like if you're doing,
A half of a roof, yeah. We'll apply for each one.
have we done that in the past?
It depends on what it is and if they're eligible
No,
for it.
anytime we've done roofs.
Is that because it's not going to be a spray roof?
That's part of it. Also, a lot of the times, a lot of it's not eligible.
Yeah, I know when we did the SPF in Mount Holly, it's
No.
not eligible.
So the question should be, have we always applied for any grants or any monies from the state that we've been eligible in the past for projects that we've done?
Yes. That we've been eligible for, yes.
That's what I was asking.
And what I just heard is that you could be eligible for certain types of roofs, as per the state?
I remember that when we did the SPF, I'm saying that right? It was not eligible for anything, that way. Nope.
Plus, also, you have to live on their timeline, too, with things.
Well, forget about the timeline. I'm just totally amazed that they would tell you, we'll give you money for this roof.
Like,
not
for
that kind of
instance, we didn't apply for any of the ROD grants because you had to live on their timelines. So we could have applied for them, but did not.
For the vestibules, right?
Okay.
Everybody seeing the green notes? We had some questions you wanted us to look through. One of the questions was, the two middle schools, do they need anybody else to help them with their performances? Everybody see that paragraph? Whereas, Mr. Pacifico explained that his drama had increased, but Mrs. Nowacki explains that her musical is where they need the extra help. Everybody saw that? And then we took out the 51,360 because that was the fiber from 1 gig to 10 gig, so that was out. The next was about the buses. You saw information about adding the 2 extra, right? 2 extra, right, Sin? Okay.
If that's on top of, what are we doing? 4 was 3.
3.
And now you want 2 more on top.
Yes, to bring it to 5, which would give you,
the offset.
and it would space things out a little more evenly instead of this jumping up and down with
Yep.
buses, as far as replacing them.
With the new system, then your warranty's 10 years as well.
Yes.
That's.
Yeah, we're going to go through, yes.
You want to talk a little bit about the alignments, Sin?
Yeah, we did find that we could, the equipment is about $20,000, but we only do the alignments when it's after we change the tires at least 3 times. The space for it would take up almost a whole bay, and we're not sure it's worthwhile to really do it. We're really not.
No, I don't know if it's worthwhile to do, but I'll just make one comment for what it's worth. Changing the tires 3 times, I'd just throw it out there. Maybe it's better you go by mileage rather than changing tires, because I'd hate to throw away 3 tires, sets of tires, throw them away because the alignment was bad. So, if you're going through 3 tires by your mileage more than you should be, that's telling you right away that you've got a problem with the alignment. But that's what chews up tires too. The alignment chews up tires like crazy. So probably a mileage schedule of maintenance might make more sense than I threw away 3 tires just trying to get alignment. That's just my
Yeah,
sense.
Nancy's been working with our tire company very closely about it and stuff. And he said, unless there's major work on your big buses, major front-end work and stuff, he said you really don't align them as much as you do. The vans, you align them a lot more.
Okay. So just throwing that there. Thank you.
So the net effect of all and the other thing is that, just to tell you how much we realized the savings on contracting out all of our lawn cutting and how much better I think things look and stuff. We saved about $65,000. So I think it was a real worthwhile endeavor to do this. So with all these net changes and everything, the increase netted change was $13,630. And as we noted, it didn't change the tax impact at all. You're still at 1.1 cents.
I know several months back, before I was on the board, but there was discussion about heating the buses in the winter. There was like a project that was being discussed. I don't know if this would be the right time.
The block heaters.
Yeah, the block heaters. Did that project start, or?
No.
Because I remember hearing it was going to be like a $500,000 project to do that. Would those funds from the existing budget or in the projected budget that we're talking about now?
No, that money is sitting in maintenance reserve.
Do we have the 500,000 in maintenance reserve?
Yeah.
Do you know how that works?
No.
So essentially,
That was my next question.
good question. So at the end of a budget cycle, you are only allowed to carry over a certain amount, and over and above that certain amount, you can put into reserve accounts so that you can do it legally. So at the end of when we actually allocate, that's in what board meeting?
June.
In June, you'll say, it's usually a not to exceed type number, right, Sin? We'll put, not to exceed X into the different reserve accounts. We typically do most of our improvements through the maintenance reserve and not the capital. So that's where that money is going to come from. Year to year, it's not dependent on, it sits there, you can think of it as almost like a savings account, and then you can use it when you need to use it. Now, there's allowable uses for it that you have to make sure that you do.
Right.
But that's how the maintenance reserve works, and that's where it sits.
Like, you can't use maintenance reserve for salaries, okay? Has to be a true maintenance project.
Right, so if that project costs less, you could use that money to fix part of the roof that you
Well-
that you have in the budget now for, right? it's a maintenance reserve, so if another project came up, and if for some reason you didn't need it for that, you could use it for something else. In maintenance, like the roof or
It doesn't
whatever.
have to be earmarked to a specific
No.
project, right?
Nope.
No,
'Cause
as
I
long
guess-
as it's maintenance.
Because where I'm kind of thinking along, a few meetings ago, we were talking about the whole kindergarten expansion project. And there seemed to be, questions about what these estimates were coming in at, and then it brought me back to with this whole block heater situation. And I'm really wondering if we need to, since it hasn't started yet, and even though it's cold out now, but we're kind of like on the other side of, we're hopefully getting to the other side of winter, it doesn't seem like we're going to be doing that right away. I'm just wondering if we really need to be looking at possibly getting some other estimates from some other professionals out there. I'm just kind of throwing that out there.
You mean on the heaters?
Yeah.
I mean, that's certainly something we could do, again.
But you had mentioned for the kindergarten, at a previous meeting, going out for new professionals for kindergarten, we said times of yes, we couldn't
Right.
do that. That would be something we could certainly look at this project, starting from scratch.
Exactly.
Getting some fresh eyes on it. And
That was my
maybe come up with a
thought.
more cost-effective way of doing it.
Right.
So,
We can't seem to agree on what's being presented to us.
Because there seemed to be different ways that it was being presented, how that could be accomplished, and, I don't know enough about it, but I'm just wondering if another opinion would help.
It's not getting done this winter.
Right.
So time is not of the essence. So, because certainly if the board is on agreement, start from scratch, go out and get a new professional and start from the top and have someone come in and talk to us about designing it maybe in a more cost-effective manner than $500,000-$600,000.
Yeah, it just seemed
Is there
like
a way,
a lot.
though, so we don't have to go in circles, like, because we would have it presented to us, it's the construction, they would come here, and then we would have questions, and we'd go back, and they would alter it, we can't tell them exactly what we're looking for? Like, can you have it presented where there's more than one, like, I just don't want one plan. Like, can you, like, here's A, B, and C, or you can't do that?
You can ask
Can you
Rob.
wait 24 hours?
Hmm?
Can you wait
No,
24 hours?
I don't, no, because there's no, but if we're gonna go for new professionals,
No, can you wait, can you wait 9 hours?
you can wait any night as you want.
She's asking you to wait till
Yeah.
after construction.
Thank you.
Okay? I know what you're asking me. I know exactly what you're asking me about.
So,
Go ahead, Leon.
Yes, previously we also talk about the roofing. To me, it is also part of the maintenance. So when we do a budget, I think we should also consider included
It's in the
that.
budget.
It
The
is?
roof is in the, half the
Oh.
roof
No.
is in the budget.
All right, we'll take care of that for you. It's in there.
Done.
Very good. That was the easiest one.
Good. And we applied for
Middle-
grants, so we
middle's
could
roof.
get some help with it. I think you were late when we were talking about
Okay.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. We are not engineers. We're sitting here and saying, well, we would like to put our input into these block heaters and the designing of these, and we want to have, do 3 plans. That would be like us sitting here and saying, well, I want our input into how the roofs are designed, and I want 3 plans into this and 3 plans into that. And I'm not an engineer. We sat on the construction committee, and the estimate was approximately 450,000. So let's get the number. Let's be.
No, it went up.
accurate.
It went up.
No,
though.
it
It was
went
over
up.
$500,000.
It went up.
It's over $500,000 last time, wasn't it?
Wasn't the estimate approximately 450,000?
It was originally $400,000, then we tweaked it a bit, and then it went up
To approximately what?
to 5.
Okay.
And then it went, and then it's about 450 because of where you could get you have to get the concrete barriers you can't get locally.
Well,
because
that's a different plan.
Yes.
We're talking about the original plan.
Yes, was
And
for.
then the subsequent plan that Michael had asked for as far as, his plan was about $450,000. I was talking about the original plan,
Mhm.
but I had said $450,000, which was the plan that Michael, I was
Right.
giving the max plan. So it was approximately $450,000. So, we have gone from the original engineer's plan, and I'm not trying to.
No, yeah, finish.
To hit you, but we've gone from the original engineer's plan to all different plans, from a 50-foot pole with wire that was huge, We've sent it across the street to Trevor. Trevor wrote a report back to us. This has gone through many, many different
Iterations.
Thank you. Thank you for stepping in with the words. And we've now come to a standstill where we've gone through the entire winter, and we're now saying, okay, we're going to hire somebody else to come up with a plan, and we're sitting here and saying, it's going to be our plan?
No,
I'm not an engineer.
no, I don't know if that
Wait a
was,
minute,
that
what's it
wasn't,
any different than, I'm not an educator, and saying I want to put rooms in all the schools, and you giving suggestions to Dr. Hibbs on that aspect? It's no different of us giving suggestions on Michael's well-versed in
well,
knowing,
I'm not,
what's the difference?
but I'm,
We
to
have a
that point, Brian, that's not even where, I don't think that's even where Craig's coming from, and that's not even where I'm coming from, and John even spoke to how much per square foot, so I don't think John heard when the cost was for that, you were, just like I felt, this is crazy for the block heaters.
And I could opine about block heaters.
I'm sorry?
We got through the fourth or fifth coldest winter in the year, and in the last couple of years, and I didn't see anybody throwing penalty flags at us. So I'm not going to be too quick to say, let's spend, whether it be 200, 300, 400, or 500. I don't really care at this point, because I think the whole conversation amongst us all is a waste of time right now at this stage of the game.
Oh,
And we should just move on.
At this point it is, but all I'm saying is that we're sitting here and we've had a whole groups of professionals speak to us. We've had Dr. Hibbs' recommendation multiple times on this, and that's why we hire a superintendent to go through all the data, speak to all the professionals, come back with recommendations.
And I think what should happen in the future is people are either going to say yes or no to the number.
Exactly.
And end it.
Well,
And
we
move on.
pretty much said no to the number of
Right.
what it was going along. But
So we got
to Craig's
$500,000?
point, though, I feel as well, we could do better by starting at the top, doing better, and getting fresh eyes in here, that here's a board that says,
I
we need to do things more
I do
efficiently,
understand that,
at a
but
better
at some point-
cost-effective way, and
Yeah,
if
we
we don't
move on.
start somewhere, we're never going to start.
I do understand that. I don't think right now,
I don't want to waste any more money on professionals at this point.
I don't think right now is the time.
Nope.
Because I'm not even going to be looking. Michael, if you were to say to me, let's take a vote on, let's do a block, my answer is no.
My answer is no, too.
Right.
Okay, everybody knows that.
So we should just,
Yeah.
I think we got bigger fish to fry, and I think it's called roofs and
We're already in March.
teachers and.
We have what we think is a different solution. I think it should run through construction tomorrow and come back to the board at that point, because it's not going to be of a major cost at that point. So just table it. I agree
Okay.
with you wholeheartedly, and then I think we can come back with a different solution.
See, okay. I got 9 hours.
Thank you.
Maybe
Okay.
10, if those are delayed open.
Okay.
can't be here.
Okay.
No delay.
Give you $500,000?
We're not gonna delay.
So-
All right.
You just
As-
say
as-
$500,000, Craig, because we ain't doing it.
Let's get past as the point as you went. So is everybody okay with the buses as explained?
Yeah.
The 5 buses, we're all okay?
I'm in favor of the 3, but not the extra 2.
Everybody else?
Fine with it.
Okay. We have a consensus to
Fine.
go with the 5 buses. Sir?
Good job. Correct.
I'm sorry, Cindy, a year wouldn't be a year without me saying no to a couple of buses.
That's okay.
See, I'm not
Okay.
contrary just with you, okay?
So we're good with that
You're
one?
always
Okay.
contrary with me,
Okay.
so.
All right,
Next, sir.
so going through then, I think that was really the questions that we had. The other things that we need to hash out are the things that I asked for in going forward. We didn't really have a fruition on that, so I would like you to flush that if you could tonight, and that way we're in a good spot, not arguing out the table next week.
Okay. Everybody has the list, the data specialist, the new technology supervisor, the math facilitators at both middle schools, one each, and the secretary, part-time secretary, it's a secretary, but
Yep.
it's part-time secretary for communications.
That originally was 2,
For which?
the math facilitators.
It still would be one for each middle school. Yeah. And that's because there's none at either middle school. So you have math facilitators right now at Abbott,
Right.
and then 1 through 5, and then you hit middle.
Refresh my memory as to nice to haves versus you have to have it.
Okay. So
So we're just cutting to the chase here.
you want me to cut to the chase? You want my 9s?
Yes.
First bullet, 9. Second bullet, 9. Third bullet is an 8. And then fourth bullet is a 9. So if you're going to cut anything out of here, I think, communication-wise, we need someone extra to help us with the things that we have. The data specialists are essential. They can also help with that facilitator role in this year, and the tech supervisor is really a 9+. So if you're asking me what it is, that's how I'd rank it. I still think you should think about the facilitators, because you're really talking about $200,000 over the course of the budget, and then I think then we narrow that down to $14, and the number 14 sticks in my head to the average taxpayer. The $200,000 for the math facilitators.
When we add them in, wait, what am I?
$200,000, adding that in to wherever it is that we are, assuming that we do the other three, assuming the difference between the 3 or the 4. I think Craig asked this question, and I think it was $14.
Meanwhile, can I ask
Two
you a
people.
question? Is it possible?
Well, he's up there.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Is it possible that we can start with one? No.
Start with
Thank you. Start with one math facilitator for both middle schools and share the time between the 2 middle schools and the data specialist help, like you were saying, for the first year and see how that works out?
You could. What you do there, though, is really, you honestly, that facilitator, obviously helps with our BSI kids. So what you'd have is you'd have one person to work with 2,000 kids. Even if you follow just the model that you have set up, assuming that there really is, there's different levels of learners across our district, K 1 through 5, 6 through 8. The model that I originally threw to you was doubling everything at the middle schools. So what you'd have there is you'd have one person to make a dent in 2,000 kids. To me, could you do it?
Not
Sure.
the instructors, the kids.
Yeah.
You're looking for FaceTime with the
Yeah.
facilitator.
Yeah, Michael, you want to pop up and talk about what your vision for this would also be? And Michael, weigh in on one person for 2,000 kids versus one person for the building.
And also, I think last time I asked the question, we don't really currently have it.
No.
That's what we knew. So currently we're doing good. So why we need a 2 all of a sudden?
Sure, it's a good
So
question.
you can answer that question.
Yeah.
So just to repeat your question, we're doing so well in math right now, why do we need these 2 people? We are doing well. The math facilitators, as I'm sure you well know, target our students who are most at risk for having learning gaps, in this case in math. So while our math scores are very good, we still have students who are struggling under the new standards, and sharing a math facilitator across 2 middle schools would, I think, be a scheduling problem. You'd have to work in travel time for this person to share time between 2 schools. I don't think logistically that would work, and for the sheer number of students that you would have to deal with. Now, of course, it might not necessarily be quite 2,000, right?
Sure. And it wouldn't be.
But essentially, this person also provides PD on the teacher end as well. So just like we do at our elementary schools and at Abbott, the math facilitators and reading specialists for that matter, but we'll stick to math facilitators, they not only provide instruction to students, but they're also a resource to teachers, which is a big piece in remediating skills, or a big piece really for any teacher, but especially for remediating skills that where you have students with learning gaps. These are experts in the field, and while our middle school math teachers are experts as well, the math facilitator in this case would facilitate small group instruction, which we know all of the research states that that's how students move, and that's how students learn, especially students with gaps. And it really tailors instruction to the individual and not to the whole class.
Question. Do you have a percentage, like typically out of 800 students you have X amount who are ESI or need facilitators?
I don't have it at my fingertips, but I could get that for you.
I'm just wondering how we have the one math facilitator at elementary level with, 1 through 5, and we have 3 grades in middle school.
Right.
How we can't juggle that schedule if there's a normal percentage, or if it increases throughout the years, I don't know. That would be my question, if it's doable.
We could certainly, look, one's better than nothing, but one for each is really the model. I mean, think of it this way. So let's just take 500 kids, and it's probably if you average it's roughly where you'd be in the building. So however many of those kids are BSI, they have a full plate. They don't have random periods. They are full across the board working with your at-risk kids. So if you double that to go to either middle, which you essentially do, one person would still be able to cover that. These kids don't stop struggling in ways when they go from 5th grade to 6th grade. So, I mean, it's a good model to have. It really is. And then you have one-to-one. One-to-one
sure,
being
it's great. I think I would feel more comfortable spending the money if if we could see numbers,
We can absolutely pull numbers for you of
I
BSI
probably
kids
should've called you
in 1 through 5. Not a problem. And we could
Or
bring
6
that.
to 8.
We could bring that next week.
Both.
It wouldn't be 1 through 5, right?
6 through
6 through 8.
6 through 8.
Well, or a
should-
comparison,
You should want to see.
Yeah, 1 through
You should want to
5,
see the
and
1 through
6 through
5
8.
because those are the kids that would transfer up to the middles.
And maybe we could just compare with this year's.
Sure.
Thank you.
Donnie?
I appreciate it.
We're setting up a math facilitator for failure by only having one. You want this person, if we only hire one, to travel between 2 schools. You want them to be a coach. You want them to talk to parents. You want them to
Work with kids.
work with children one-on-one. You want them to speak to Mr. Balone and develop curriculum. You want them to,
Work with Carol and then go
Have-
back out.
yes, to work with the data. You want them to have a rounded, be an educational leader in the school that they're in. But yet we're saying within this 6.5-hour day, you have to do all these things and wear all these hats. Now, I realize that we demand a lot from our staff, but this is just a ridiculous amount of work for one person, and do it efficiently. Now, with new Common Core standards and with the park assessments, we hear the parents talking about how difficult this is on the children, and then we know that the testing has caused a tremendous amount of stress for the parents. We know that our scores have dropped across the board, and it has dropped in math also. Now, generally our children have done well, but we have children, and I know this is the BSI children for the most part, but we also know that we don't know where that line is going to hit. We don't know where that line is falling now. So children who might not have been affected before might be affected now. And it's just starting to shake out. So these math facilitators might have more work than might have been a year ago or 2 years ago. So we're really putting more pressure on them than we would have in the past. So I think that it is unwise of us to do this. We need to give them the most face time that we possibly can with as many children that we possibly can, and to have them walking between 2 schools is not what we need to do. I would love to hire more math facilitators for the younger students. And if these math facilitators have more time, I would love to be able to send them to the lower grades to help out. Send them to the 5th grades, have them help the other math facilitators in the lower grades, not spread them between the middle schools, have them help out in the lower grades. So that would be something that I would say I would rather see. So I'm not looking to split them between the two. I would rather see the two go lower if need be.
Okay. Craig, you had some?
Yeah, my question was for each of the bulleted items, assuming that there's merit to Dr. Hibbs's request, and I have no doubt that there is merit. Do we have numbers for each of these bullet points, what the totals are?
Yes.
I think at one point we
It's
did.
$550.
I'm sorry?
It's $550,000.
For the total?
Dr. Hibbs?
Yep.
You good, Craig? You have another question? You
I'm
good?
sorry, no, it's good.
Dr. Hibbs, if you could clarify, because I was lucky enough to work very closely with one of the great math facilitators that we have in our district.
Okay.
This is not a one-on-one position. This is a group, a small group
Yes.
with the facilitator.
Yeah.
So you're not hitting 10% of children one-on-one FaceTime.
No. Absolutely, absolutely. We're on the money.
Okay. Just want to make sure nothing changed.
Okay. Any other questions on Dr. Hibbs? Go ahead, John.
Clarify. So we needed those math facilitated because of the park? No. So,
No, so,
opinion.
yep. What happens is, John, is that even though we are high achieving, we still have students that still struggle with certain concepts. At the middle school, we do not have the same model that we have at the elementary school. Every elementary school and Abbott has both a math facilitator and a reading specialist. Middle has never had anything like that. I mean, they do BSI a different way, but they don't have a dedicated person. Sir?
Correct.
so it has been discussed before? Because, I mean, we always have students who need help, who's struggling on math. So that's not something new, right?
No, not new.
So have we discussed about this before, and now for some reason we really need it?
I mean, I brought it up this year as
Yeah.
something that I wanted you to respectfully think about.
So, John, before Dr. Hibbs was here, we did not add administrators. The previous superintendent didn't come to us year to year add administrators as the academics got more rigorous throughout the state, throughout the country. So other districts did add these. If I'm wrong, you can tell me. Other
No.
districts have been adding certain types of administrators to
Absolutely.
increase with the rigor of the education. We didn't. This is kind of like, if I view it more as a catch-up to where we should be, where we didn't go in small steps.
Way
We
catching
need to
up.
get there.
Yeah,
So
there's-
that's how I'm viewing it, because other districts did add these types of positions, like I said, and we historically haven't.
Yep.
Dr. Hibbs has a different perspective, has to come in and make us better. And he's been here a year now, almost,
Almost two.
Almost two. He's
Evolved.
You know?
So we expected our score is going to be higher with those two facilitators.
We take scores out of it. This is all about just giving kids the extra help.
Well, once they get help, I would have expected the score going up.
Could, but that's, I don't want to tie it to that, because I don't want it to come back where you say, we don't even know what the park
We
average
can't
look
we
like
can
yet.
measure. We
Well-
can measure with not average,
Sure.
but measure with those who have problem
You certainly
before,
can.
after.
Yes, we can
Yeah,
absolutely.
we definitely, because you spend money, you do want to see the difference.
You do, absolutely. And there'd be many ways to measure this. We could benchmark them through common assessments. We could benchmark them through Study Island. We could benchmark them through Park to show growth. Absolutely, and we would. But
Yeah.
I don't want to come here and say that the reason why I want this is because I want our scores to go up. That's not really.
I didn't mean it that way.
Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking that. I'm just trying to clarify Gian's question. It's a great question. Would I expect that could happen? Sure, I would, but that's not my focus. My focus is we really don't have someone dedicated. So when Carol Vecchio has her math team and they come in here and they take all over and they're doing great mathematical alignments when they're working on curriculum, she has a facilitator in each building that can then go back and disseminate and work with whatever it is they're doing and their staff. The middles have nothing like that. The model doesn't exist. It's a great model. They're a math coach. They're an instructor to work with your at-risk kids. They can develop professional development and deliver professional development to the staff. So it's a great model. It just doesn't exist. So you start and we say, you know what, it's really important to work with our youngest at Abbott, and then it's really important to work and work at our 1 through 5s, and then we get to the middle schools and you have the grinding, screeching halt because it just doesn't exist. It hasn't existed. It hasn't been the model that we use. I mean, we typically have a math innovations class that we deliver, but it's just not the same. So in order to have a better program, these two people would go one to each building. Does that make sense?
Well, I understand where you come from.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm with Debbie, thinking maybe we can start with the one and then just see if we really need a second one.
Well, I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify, Michael, piggybacking on what Craig said, the bullet points are costing us an extra $550,000. So as a board, if we're going forward with this and we're approving the budget, we're approving this $550,000 increase. So I wanted to make sure that was clear too, because, if we're saying these are all great ideas, then we're expecting that we're approving a budget for those reasons. So,
And Deb, your question on how many kids would it affect?
I would like to know.
We can absolutely flush
I'd like
that.
to see a comparison,
To
just so I could feel
yeah.
comfortable saying yes.
Absolutely, and that's something we absolutely can do for you. To Bonnie's point, I do think one is set up for failure. I really do. You're gonna basically take one person and you're gonna say you're gonna go and you're gonna work in, I don't even know how many classrooms. We have to figure that out with how many at-risk kids. You are gonna have travel time back and forth. It's just gonna be a.
You could alter the days, can you alter the days, how many days?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You could. Don't misunderstand me. You could do it. I just don't think it would be
I don't think you'll get a
effective.
good hire.
I don't think it would be as effective.
John?
I don't think you'll get a good hire.
I think it'd be a tough position to be successful at. That's
And I think you'll have a hard time hiring a person for that position.
Running the risk of being the devil's advocate here.
due for you.
Don't smile, Michael. Don't smile. People question two math facilitators at 200K
Okay.
versus 3 or 4 teachers.
Well, we're budgeting, we budget starting salary with benefits, right? Is that what we budget's in? So it's starting salary, Mr. Vaughn, roughly?
Well, if you're looking for,
It's a higher salary, it's not a starting salary teacher.
What do we budget?
Probably about 70.
The benefits ongoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically, Mr. Dwyer, if you hired someone less than that, and then if they weren't married, you'd have a theoretical savings. But we budgeted the roughly 25-ish for benefits, and then
Well, you're going to have the,
32,000 benefits for the.
you're going to have the question asked that, math facilitators, you're hiring facilitators and a higher end, a higher level. Is that the right way to go, or is teachers the right way to go? And I don't know the answer to that. It's other than looking at you, Michael, and saying, if I was to say, this is more than a nice to have, but not quite, I have to have this like the other 3. If this was to wait another year, what would the negative impact be on the children in Marlboro?
Well, the way I look at it is let's go back a year. We had this set up at the elementary schools, did not have it at Abbott, did not have it at the middles, currently don't have it at middles, as you know. Our year 1 plan was to pull Abbott into the elementary schools for continuity, and we did that successfully. Both the reading specialist at Abbott and the math facilitator, they've created now, Abbott used to be an island, they are now part of the other 5 elementary schools from a curriculum standpoint. So the continuity there, and I believe when we see those current Abbott students come into first grade next year, it's going to be a world of a difference in terms of the first graders coming in. We still have a piece of the puzzle missing, and kind of the year 2 plan would be to now bring middles in line with how the elementary is. So the elementary was always in the middle with a very good setup. Now that Abbott is there, we feel it's time for middles to get there as well. And you're talking about highly trained staff who can not only work with children, work with collaboratively with other staff members, and again, as we all know, that always works the best. It works better if someone in your building, in the culture of your building, can help you move as a building versus someone from the outside saying, this is what I want you to do. So that's kind of I guess conceptually how we look at this. Now that Abbott is on board, we still have a piece of the puzzle missing.
Let me tell you what I'm looking at right now. So one of Mr. Perno's observations was a data conference. We typically hadn't really done a lot of these in years past. So we put these into play. My first year last year, all over, and I observed Al in one this year, and in there would have been his reading specialist and math facilitator. So I'm looking at I have a spreadsheet that he has shared with me of every teacher in his school, first name, last name, Brigant score, math diagnostic, how they did on the CA1, how they did on the CA2, reading level, math and reading together, homeroom teacher interventions, tier 1, for both math and reading, the specialist, which would be the math facilitator, and the reading specialist interventions, and then comments. And what happens is that we have a watch list of all of our children, and monthly they get together in a group and they talk about the kids and their progress. This is incredible, absolutely incredible, as they drill down into the specific needs of kids. And that's what would happen at the middle school level. When we have a child that struggles, we do what's called INRS. And what we do is we actually try to figure out what the specific reason is. It's not a child study team evaluation. It's a deep dive on the learning needs of the child. So any child that would be on this watch list could possibly run through, and those people are an integral part of that process. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, the PD is incredible. The working with teachers is incredible, but working with our at-risk kids in that small group session, helping them make the gains that they need to keep going. Remember, your standards are totally different. Okay, they were a couple inches deep and a mile wide, and Common Core turned them this way. So before, if a child didn't understand fractions, they had multiple years at getting that. Doesn't exist like that anymore. It's a deep dive. You miss something, you have that gap where we're not cycling back through standards. So this person is really essential. It really is to making you better academically and thinking really of our children.
I got to go back to the numbers a little bit, if that's okay.
Yep.
Data specialists, are we looking at one person or more than one?
Two. One for math, one for ELA.
And then, so the 550, that's including benefits? So health and pension and everything?
Just health, just benefits. The pension is covered by the state.
Okay. So from a salary standpoint, we're looking roughly at 100 plus average per person here?
It could be. I mean, it could be. So the data specialist, was it 200, Cindy? I didn't put that in here.
I did. I have to go back to old green notes. Hold on a minute. Do you have it in there?
And that was one of your must-haves, right?
Yeah.
Math facilitators were 200,000 total.
Okay.
The data specialists were 200,000 total.
Okay.
The assistant supervisor was 125.
That's it.
Okay.
And the part-time secretary was 25.
Yep.
Perfect.
To get to 550.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, guys,
Yeah.
to speak very plainly,
Okay.
if you went out and you surveyed other districts that look like us and are high achieving, they've had data people for years. And if you ask them if they had a math coach at the middle school, they would look at you like you had 6 heads if you said you didn't have one. Literally, they would be baffled. You go to the Princetons, the Medfords, the UShams of the world, they would literally.
Well, I know that the public has come to us about wanting data, wanting to
Mhm.
see what.
Absolutely. Transparency, common
transparency
assessments,
with the
yep.
data and
Absolutely.
assessments and, and
Yep.
it takes a while, that's what they would handle.
Absolutely.
There. You got
I still go back to the math data specialist because I still can't wrap my head around when we sat here and the reason we hired this person was because of all the data she brought and everything. And that was why we hired her, to do all this. And now I understand positions change.
It didn't change.
And it just seems, that was what was like drilled into us. That was why, we liked that about her. That was what we were told was so great. She came in with all this data.
Yep.
And
She did. And that's what she did. I mean, she was essentially one of these at Howell.
Right, Howell has this position, several of them, and she was one of them.
Yeah.
But there's 2 different kinds of data. There's 2 different kinds of data. There's raw data, and then there's data that is given to the people that need it. And
To drive instruction.
Thank you, to drive instruction. And what these people will do is look at raw data and put it in a format that Carol will then get to drive instruction. And she will still be dealing with the data, and she will still go through the data and put it in different formats for different people for the usage that they need. This is people that will take raw data and be able to put it in a more usable format. We're talking about 2 different types of data.
like I said, that's what I thought she was hired to do.
Sure.
No, Dara, I understand.
Now, I hear where you're coming from. It's just another layer. Feels like another layer being put on top of a layer.
Yeah, that's
Which
what I
is-
thought she was
Which
hired.
Which is,
I know exactly.
and I don't mean this offensively, but
And I
it's
don't-
one of the wraps
and
on the.
That's why I don't have a problem with the.
Everybody
the
has
one
an
for
assistant who
Mr.
has an
Bowman.
assistant.
I don't think that's true.
Well,
I mean, my God, you are thinner than everybody around. We have 1,000 less kids than Freehold. They out administrate us, I want to say, by 8 to 10 people, without a doubt.
You weren't here when Dr. Abbott kept taking the administrators that were retiring and kept putting the positions together to make other positions. He kept, putting combining jobs and saying, okay, these 2 positions will be put together and we're not going to hire that person. And he kept reducing administrative staff. So it would look good that we had, a very low administrative student to administrative ratio, so on the report card, but we weren't replacing staff. So now we're in a pickle because we don't have the administrative staff to do the.
These guys, the only administrator on here is the supervisor. Everybody else is not an administrator.
It's not even a layered thing, John. Even if that data specialist and Dr. Hibbs said, okay, I want you now to do this, this, and this as well, different type of data, there's not enough hours in a day.
No.
So it's not even that one data specialist can handle these added tasks.
No, and
If-
Carol
If we
certainly
said,
can.
we hired that person for that kind of data, now do this kind of data also, there's not enough hours in a day.
Yeah. Well, and to Dara's point, and I 100% hear you. There's just she can't do it all. That would be like you saying, hey Eric, we haven't had a B&G supervisor in a while. Why don't you do that too? I can't. You know what I mean? I just and look, I'll always be honest with you. I will never lie to you. She is swamped and a half.
It just.
I hear you.
Rubs me wrong. Just that one position, not the ELA one.
Sure, I understand.
Just the math one.
I'm telling you that it's necessary.
It's just, it's a lot of money. It just rubs me
Jan,
wrong.
I'm just talking.
I
can't hear.
Yeah, well, we're discussion, so I have a question. And currently we have one person carry multiple functionalities, and it's working. And this person need help. right? What I try to understand is like, why all of a sudden, well, we need a help. She needs help. She does multiple functions, and why all of a sudden we need two people?
You need one for math and one for ELA.
Well, she's handling both, right, today?
She's a math supervisor. The person we're talking about is a math supervisor.
Yeah, but still, she does taking care of the data.
She was a math supervisor, but we were told she was very good at data. That is true what Dara
Yep.
says. But these tasks that these two people will be doing are different, and there is no time in the day for her to do these tasks. It comes down to, Gian.
So
it
She
comes
could
down-
do it, she did it at Howe, right? She was the data specialist at Howe.
Yes.
So she used to do the data specialist job at her other district.
For one school.
At one school, and we brought her here, and we hired her for a totally different thing, as a
Yep.
supervisor.
She leads all of math, so she's in charge of everything, including
So now
observations.
she needs help.
So, am I hearing that we have
Bless
we
you.
ignore? So our district, nobody taking care of those raw data and convert them into instructional data today.
There's some taking place. Yes, what I'm telling you is that a hole that absolutely exists is the fact that we don't have people that can take data from great things. So from any assessment that you have, and filtering that back to teachers and saying, all right, on question 2, which was percents, 38% of the kids got it wrong. How are we addressing that? Yes, Carol is not capable of doing that type of an item analysis, and neither is Michael Bowman. It's not physically possible. So what happens then is that it's left for our teachers, who are incredible to do. I want a better systems process to handle that.
Which other districts have.
Yeah.
We just didn't grow with the times because we, like Bonnie had
Well,
said, we
we're not
didn't.
growing. Our number of students is getting less.
But the educational demands are going up.
Everybody is.
That's right,
But
and that's
they-
why other districts have hired these people that we're looking to hire now.
Yeah.
They have,
You're right. Yeah.
I know we've kind of spoken about this. Is there any way to automate this process of taking raw data and making something useful out of it?
You mean as in so that you wouldn't need these
Like
two
you
people?
input something into a computer and
Programming.
it spits out something
So
that's...
yeah, so we're absolutely going to use some programs next year that will help us with that, but you still need to get it in there, and you still need to be able to disaggregate it. Does that make sense?
It does, but does it require the level person that you're referring to in this proposal?
Yeah, it would.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
And they weren't going to be used for any type they're not supervisors, they're just specialists. They're not going to be used for any type of evaluations, they're
No.
only going to be focused on their job.
The only position out of these bullets that will be an administrator is the second one. Nobody else is an administrator. So we're not adding in data supervisors, and a lot of people actually add this in as a director of innovation, director of data, director of special programs, whatever it may be. We're not choosing to do it that way. A, it won't affect administrative costs, and then B, you'll have one for math and one for ELA.
Correct.
I'm sorry. If this is approved, how far down the road does this take us? Do you estimate in terms of staffing? In other words, are we good for the next X number of years with this component, or do you see that we're going to have to add to these functions?
To these specific functions? So, no, I think that the 2 data people will last you for a very long time. I think two supervisors to deal with tech is absolutely appropriate, because then what you really have is you have one person for 4 buildings working with computer teachers, which is a good ratio. The math facilitators, well, my feelings on that, I think your middle school facilitators and specialists should ratchet up. I really do. However we ratchet over the next few years, I mean, if you put
I'm sorry, what was taken off that original list? That was your wish list?
2 and 2.
It was two math facilitators and 2.
And it was really the addition of 2 math facilitators to each, and then 1 reading specialist, right, Michael?
It was one more reading facilitators
Yeah.
in the middle school.
Because
One
they
more.
already have one.
Yep.
But we said we could probably wait until it started to grow again.
And we also wanted to weigh the double ELA period, see if that was helping.
Yep. Which was a great thought. But so the only one of these that I think that you would want to grow over time would be the third one, in case you wanted to look at your your population that maybe isn't succeeding, and this is the first year really, we're going to have PARP results. We're going to see how our kids do. Common Core is in full swing. So to your question, number 3, where it would go, we have to look at data.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to clarify something, Dr. Hibbs. When I brought up the 1 for both middle schools,
Yeah.
I don't want you looking at anything that's setting anybody up for failure.
Sure.
So I don't want that being up there.
I gotcha.
I was just asking a question if it's doable, and
No problem.
mathematically, no
Yeah.
pun intended, if
We'll
it's
pull-
doable.
It's a fair question, Deb.
I
You're,
just wanted to clarify. I'm
yeah.
not trying to set anybody for
You got it.
disaster.
Michael knows how we work. He's already gotten numbers for BSIs written down in the back of his eyelids.
I'm sure he does.
Anyone else? We have to give Cindy some kind of direction for next week. So why don't we start with the 2 data specialists? So I'll just ask for a raise of hands who's okay with Cindy putting into next week's budget the 2 data specialists. One.
To put it in.
Good? Yeah. Just in 2 data specialists. The first thing, the first bullet item. Yeah. So just John.
What?
This is okay. If you're okay with the data
Why don't you
specialist.
just ask who wants out? Why don't you just ask who wants out?
Well, we got to get approval. So I wanted to, who's going to approve it? Who's going to approve the 2 data specialists? That's
When
all.
you approve it, I mean, you're going to vote on it in the budget.
You should. You can change your mind. Anyone can change their mind till the last day. This is a free
It's easy to
will.
approve it now, and then when the budget comes, you don't vote for it.
Okay.
Why don't you just ask who wants out?
Who wants the data specialists? 2 data specialists. That's what I'm asking.
I don't have a problem with
Okay?
it.
You okay? You okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. You okay? 5. You okay? We have a majority of the board.
Anybody
at
want to raise
this
their
point.
hand?
No. Okay. We have a majority for that. Okay. Technology supervisor. Okay? 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 Okay. We're good. Technology supervisor. Mass facilitators, and I know people have asked for numbers. Could you set it up with 1 and 2? Have 1 and 2 available next week, so it can go either way? Because I know we're still waiting with some numbers we didn't get tonight. Would that be possible? Too much to ask?
How much do you want? What do you want?
Set it up both ways for next week with 1 facilitator for the 2 buildings and 2 facilitators. So when we hear the numbers, Debbie's still looking for numbers, I think. So rather than just,
What do you want? Whether there's 1 facilitator or 2 facilitators? What,
Yeah.
100,000 or 200,000?
yeah, just leave it open till next week because we're waiting for
I
the
can
numbers.
tell you, give me 2 minutes.
No, she asked the question, how many kids is going
I
to,
don't think you have a majority, I'm just going with that.
okay, what? No?
What would
Okay.
those numbers impact if it's going to be 1 or 2, really?
No, it's peanuts. All right, 2,
What do you roll call this one?
okay, 2 facilitators is asked for. Who's in favor? I'm good. 1, 2, 3, I only see 3 hands. 2, this is for 2, that's the way it's asked for. So I see 3 hands right now,
No, I
that's
don't
it.
have a problem with it, but I still want to hear how many, the percentages, just so we know the percentages.
Okay.
Well, he's trying.
No, that's also only 4 people.
Support the decision, I think, is really what
Yeah,
we're talking about.
I want to support the decision, and you can always change your mind next week.
No, because whatever I agree to put in there,
Okay.
I'm voting for on the budget.
Then you can, that's the thing. So I have
No,
only
I'm,
3.
I'm
want to know
okay with the
information.
2, but I want to
Okay.
know what those numbers
On
are,
there too,
Okay.
yeah.
just so we can
Okay,
I need to.
support it, in other words,
Okay.
that's all.
okay,
Because you had 3, and then you had 1, 2, 3.
okay.
Right?
So I have enough for
Right,
right
Craig,
now.
John,
so
you
keep
were
it
okay
in.
with that, right? Or
Well,
not?
well, we need the
No, you
numbers
weren't okay?
next week.
Oh, okay.
How
No, I
many
think
people
you
they're
want
going to
3.
service.
1,
Do
2?
you want 1 or none? Are you
No.
waiting on the numbers?
No, he's waiting on the numbers, right?
He wants none.
And my opinion might be swayed based on numbers. I'm going to say no for tonight and be very definitive about it.
No, I want to
And
vote.
if something
I mean, I want to know what they are.
blindsides me with numbers that you requested, then I can jump back in the game.
That's fine.
And I'll
Okay.
take the
We're
opposite
good,
approach. I'm going to vote
Okay.
for it unless the numbers prove that we don't need it.
Okay, sounds good to me. We're in a good place. Secretary for Communications, everybody in favor?
That's, I'm in favor.
Good, good,
Thank
good,
you.
good, good, we're good.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes,
And you
ma'am.
put in the supervisor, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The
Yes.
tax increase is 1.8 cents.
Okay, 1.8 cents.
Let Cindy come up with that grant.
And math
Early Christmas.
Come up with some money.
What 2?
That's what they're both.
It's not going to make the difference, 1 math facilitator.
I can tell you, if you give me a second, I can tell you. Because I have to take it out of 2 places.
2 or none. 2 or
It's going to be negligible.
It's- Exactly.
It's not even the fact. I mean, if we have to see what we need.
I'm happy to pull that.
You have every right to ask for support of what's being asked for.
Oh, I know. fine with me.
Why are you doing that, Cindy? Just want to make sure, because we haven't talked about the heating issues, so the same 1.8 will be okay with whatever we're going to talk about next with the heating issues, whatever the recommendation is going to be on that.
We'll talk about it tomorrow, construction committee.
Do you want to talk about it?
We can.
Yeah, why don't you just briefly give an outline?
This is
about-
really part of next year's
Yeah.
budget, what this is
One,
going to do.
one
This-
point.
it's the heating
Yeah, we can't bring it next week.
Yeah.
What does that say?
It takes it to 1.7 with the 100,000 swing.
From 1.8, so it does lower it.
When you
So
do the
that's-
1.8, you're talking, that includes the ratables are in there, right?
The increased ratables, yeah.
Kristen, can you give an update on,
That's not the actual number, the 1.8.
That's
the
with
heating?
my conservative change on it.
And only one facilitator, you said it's 1.7?
Yeah.
yeah. What's the difference in, can you turn that into money, Sen? I know the cent's obviously worth, but can you help us understand what the difference is to the average taxpayer?
Are you multiplying that by the 400-something thousand? Is that how that?
The 1.7 or 1.8.
Yeah. I think that's important to know.
Cindy, you
Okay.
should be able to do that in your sleep.
Well, hold on.
This is what they
The problem, she's awake. She's awake.
Okay. Right now, the tax increase on an average property is going to be, with an average property being $450,000.
No, but this is going to be 1.8 with the ratables.
Right. I'm saying we're not a weather forecaster. This isn't a
No,
feel-like
but
process.
this is
an
above the 2%,
actual,
that we're going
you
to
know,
the 2%.
I'm just trying to be
Right?
transparent. That's
Yeah,
all.
you're
So we're going
using,
to the 2%,
you're beyond the
Beyond
2%.
and then
Beyond.
1.8. So when it comes,
You're us-
1.8 cents.
Yes, you use $2.4 million. You're going to use, actually, you're going to use a lot more than that.
2.9?
So when it goes out to the public, it'll be out to the
2.95?
public. The budget went to the 2% cap, plus we used bank cap,
Yep.
which is 1.8.
2.9.
Which feels like a 1.8 or 1.7.
It's still like it, but it's still going to be printed as
Mhm.
this is what you raise taxes.
Yes.
So,
So
when you
be
use,
By
full
the,
like
by
whatever,
the,
Aaron.
by
Right.
the end, my guess is it'll probably be about 1.6, maybe, once the ratables are set, but we won't know what the final ratable number is until May. Because remember, I used a conservative estimate of what the ratables will
okay,
be.
so we went 2% plus 2.9%.
$2.9 million of bank cap you used.
A bank cap, I'm sorry.
So Cindy, the tax impact is, do you have the 1.7 cents in there or the 1.8?
1.8.
So how much, 2% is they're doing?
It's 80
Mount Holly with Eric.
2.9.
It's about $83, an $83 increase.
To the average taxpayer.
Yes.
And what about if it was a 1.7?
It'll be about $82.
Per dollar?
Yeah, it's not going to be much different.
No, Cindy, but my question to you is, we went above the 2%.
Yes.
But what was the percentage? I know we went 2.9 million into bank cap.
What's the true percentage before the ratables kick in and make it 1.8? I guess that's what you're asking, correct?
I'm
It's
asking,
2% plus 1.8 plus $2.9 million.
No,
So we
you
need-
can't go that way.
Right, so we can't go that way. So
No,
that's what-
you can't
so
go
we're
that
trying to
way.
get clarification
That's
we
one,
went 2%, we went to the 2%, but what was the
hold
above
on,
the 2%?
that's another sheet of paper, hold on.
Okay.
Yes, Joe?
For raising
Is all
taxes.
that going to make a difference right now? Because we're still in discussions, we're still, I
Next
mean,
week, we're voting on the tentative
I
budget.
understand that, but at
We're
that
just trying
point,
to be
could
transparent
those
with the
numbers?
percentages and what we're
Correct.
raising taxes.
But can we get those numbers maybe sent to us during the week, and we can maybe ask other questions before next week's meeting? And instead of sitting here,
We had those numbers. We said them, we had them ready.
You've had,
We've had
I
them.
mean, I told you,
I just don't remember off the top of my head. I don't have that original budget memo I left at home.
your original increase was 5.83%.
Here we go.
Before, no, it was
That was
before,
with the ratables. that
before
Joe
you just
estimated.
added in what you added in.
Yeah, the Dr. Hibbs request, correct?
That was before the 5.83,
Right.
right? So it's more than that now.
Yeah, so, hold on a minute.
Well, if you want to send it to us for next week or include it in the presentation next week, that's fine.
Well, if you give me a second, I'll tell you.
Because all those numbers should be in the presentation anyway next week.
I won't be presenting, I don't do the full-blown presentation next week. It's not until the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to listen to me talk next week?
I do.
No, you don't.
So we're gonna.
Yeah, but I want to
No,
know
you
the
don't.
percentages before I vote on them. But when we vote, I want to know.
Yeah, I want to know all those numbers anyway.
Just want the
You'll get
public-
updated
I'm
sheets
paying
next
X
week.
now, what am I going to be paying X plus what?
Don't rush
Next
through
week
something
is
that you might
No,
make
I
a
have
mistake
it.
on.
Meeting.
Okay.
We're going to vote next week.
Next week?
Yep.
Yep.
We vote on the workshop meeting?
We'll vote on the budget next week.
Tentative budget,
You missed a couple of them.
still tentative.
Your increase, your percentage increase is $4,465,259. It's 6.69%.
Say it again,
6.69% increase. Yeah,
6.9.
you're right.
6%.
That doesn't include kindergarten.
Here comes Mount Holly.
Got
So
checkbook
to the
ready?
average homeowner now? You just.
About 80, on the average, with an average assessment of $450,000, it's about $83.
They didn't get any local money.
But remember, that's an estimate. We do not set taxes.
No, I get that.
That's an average.
So
That's
for the
an
total-
estimate.
Total increase would cost the average homeowner.
On an average assessment of $450,000 home, about $83 a year.
Okay.
And with the
Your house
current
is worth more
rateables,
than that.
that increase was really the 1.8 or 1.7. That which way
And
we
then it's
go,
our
correct?
feel like
Well, I'm
1.8.
not going to cut my
Right.
lawn.
Feel
The
like
price is
it.
going to go down.
The
But
weathers
this is
feel
only
like
our
it's
school
1.8.
budget, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be about 1.7.
Then you have to add the township, everybody who was.
We have to
Mm-hmm.
have what?
We don't vote on it. We're not
But
voting.
they always
vote.
said the school budget, it's like more than 6%.
It's only one vote in
It'd be
Monmouth County, and that's
6.69
Neptune.
Possibly now. And then, so if we raise it and it's $83 and the township raises it and whatever that fill good is, they can have their taxes up to
And then it's
$200.
Frio Regionals.
Frio
raising theirs
regionals,
a
so
lot.
they're, taxes
How
are
much?
going up.
They're raising theirs a lot.
So everybody's
Okay.
we're getting hit this year. Everybody's getting hit.
As long as we're not raising it the most.
Do you need anything clarified besides the BSI numbers?
Nope.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's
heating.
let's update on heat.
We have heat
That
at
was a
Duke.
deep breath.
But, yeah,
That was a
well,
deep breath.
That's scary.
The
That's
kids
real
are warm at
scary.
Dugan is a
the
question.
kids are warm at,
Dugan.
Kids
kids
are
are
warm.
warm at Dugan.
And staff.
Let me
Would've
tell
been
you, it's working. To quote the contractor that's there, it is the building that is in the most dire shape. Yeah, heating-wise.
That building was never built right.
It needs help. It needs help. I'll go into a lot more detail tomorrow in the construction committee, but it needs help, but it needs some immediate help, like now. The other buildings are not as bad, but I will tell you, where I would like us to go is to be able to take a tablet, an iPad, whatever you have, and be able to look at your buildings, the head custodian, and look at the temperatures, look at the controls, get us to the 21st century of things. Nobody can control these things. Right now, our control people have to go to one computer and then go to the building and set things, and then go back to that one computer. And it's archaic. It's dial-up. We're so far behind in things.
Isn't it also our actuators and our mechanical
Actuators and
things
maintenance and stuff.
that haven't been maintenance to the point where now?
Correct.
Properly, that's why a lot of this, we'll
Yes.
talk about tomorrow, and I'll get that and bring it to the board, but
Yep.
it's a lot more than just, we
That's
just
being
need
dealt with.
computers.
No, that's a bigger, the controls are part of the problem.
Right.
The actuators and maintenance and stuff is another part of the problem. That piece is being dealt with now. I will tell you that they have replaced actuators at Memorial, a good lot of them up at Memorial and stuff. There's a lot of maintenance that needs to be done at Dugan, an awful lot of maintenance that needs to be done at Dugan.
And a lot that wasn't done, if you can understand.
Right.
So, yeah, it's,
Coupled with the fact that literally, we have to have something more than a hamster on the wheel for controls.
Yeah.
yes.
Where's the money coming from? A tree. I was waiting for John to come in, but he's not paying attention.
Excuse me?
I said, where's the money coming from? And I was waiting for you.
No. No, I'm not saying a word.
You need more bus advertising.
Yeah, right.
We don't have actual numbers yet for any other building. We have rough numbers for Dugan. Why don't you tell them now, Cindy, because
The rough number for Dugan is $120,000.
That's for now.
Oh, I'm shocked. I was waiting for a much bigger number.
That's just one building.
yeah.
That's,
But
No.
but he did look at others, and he is saying that Dugan is obviously the worst.
is the worst.
Yeah, but
So-
we're going to need work in all the
You are.
buildings. To say we're not
Yes.
going to need work in all the buildings.
No.
Math facilitator.
But not to the extent that Dugan is.
Yeah, obviously, but we
He-
can't wait.
Facilitator.
I heard
What
you
happened
say.
to Dugan happens
if I
somewhere
say
else
yes,
next year.
Absolutely
That's
not.
taken care of.
No,
Yeah.
no, because I will
on
tell
camera.
you, for the first time on Friday, Bruce and I looked at each other and it's like, it's a good day. Because we weren't at Dugan, we were actually somewhat relaxed in the fact that we weren't having agita over, there weren't heat issues, there weren't issues going on, that we knew at least that building and the other buildings were somewhat okay. But I got to tell you, what I found out over the last 2 weeks has bothered, and Dr. Hids can tell you, I've not been happy at all.
This bodes a bigger question, though. I mean,
What happened?
long term, I mean, with patching things with bubble gum and glue and throwing money at it, but from a long-term standpoint,
We're fixing.
right, but that's bubble gum and glue. It's a
No,
fix.
it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Bubblegum
Well,
glue is not.
You don't have the computers, you don't have the technology, you don't have really what you want. Do we have a master plan
Yes.
that's going to tie all this together, and that master plan is going to bring us
to 21st.
all of the
Yes.
schools to the 21st
Yes.
century? I mean, putting actuators in, and that's
Committee meeting
fixes.
tomorrow.
No.
But where are we going to be?
Yes.
We're 9 hours from hearing that.
Yes.
And then you'll hear it
Yeah.
next Tuesday.
And we don't have specific numbers.
Bully.
But what he's
Now be
saying
quiet.
is, he's saying that all the other schools are not going to be the same hit as Dugan.
I just think the public needs to know the state of where we stand with our schools, so they see what's...
If I could tell you today, I could tell you precisely where it is, I would, but I can't
I
tell you
understand
that. But we're working, and nobody is more frustrated than me with this, because I will tell you, things I expected and thought were being done over the years,
Right.
I'm shocked that they weren't.
So who's accountable for that?
So,
Cindy? If it's not,
that's
if it wasn't
right.
being done and you thought it was being done, where's the
Previous,
accountability for that?
our previous
Okay.
people.
Yes, Bonnie.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here laughing for a couple of reasons, but I'll go into that in a few seconds. The $125,000, can you kind of give me $125,000?
120. Oh, you added 5.
I had 5,
Yeah.
120?
Yeah.
Tax.
Tax, 120,000. Where, give me an idea of like what that's for.
Off the top of my head,
Just like kind of, is it for rebuilding something? Is it for a boiler?
it's replacing valves, thermostats, actuators. It's
The
soup to
21st
nuts.
century ones that
Controls.
communicate properly.
Yes, controls, and you're going to be able to take one of these,
Connecting
the
every
head
room,
custodian,
control.
and Dr.
So
Hibbs,
they'll be able to
myself.
balance the rooms.
Yes, yes.
And
And
that,
look,
I think, is one of our biggest issues. In
I
this
agree
town.
with you.
Water
First
flow?
of all, that school was never
Yeah,
built.
we'll have to deal with the water
I'll go on
flow.
record to say that building from day one was a disaster, right from the fact that that roof had to be.
That's what we've heard.
What you're hearing?
That's what we're hearing.
That's what you're hearing?
Yeah.
I could have told you that when we knew that the roof had to be replaced immediately. And you had to sue for the roof. That was a disaster. But you knew that these buildings weren't really maintained properly because you could just walk around and know that they weren't maintained properly. You know, there were always issues going on, you know, so, you know.
Not to the extent that I found out. Not
there were always issues. When I got on the board, I came here and I kept saying maintenance, and, the technology maintenance, and I'm still questioning whether we have, technology maintenance plans. I walk around and I still scratch my head, do we have maintenance plans for the Promethean boards? And, do we have plans for those? And do we have?
Yes.
I know, but we didn't when I first got here, and I used to worry, those are the things I worry about. And now I worry about the Chromebooks, do we have a comprehensive plan for those, which we'll tackle on technology committee? Because I have serious questions about that. So, I always worry about those plans, and now we're going to be tackling that, so.
Yes.
I have another question not related to what you're talking about, if you don't mind.
No, please.
Under the business office employee benefits, the instructional technology grades 2 through 8 for the Guardian software, is that a one-time purchase or is that our annual?
It's a renewal.
It's a renewal, okay.
Okay. All right. Anybody else before we wrap up the public session about the budget or heating or anything else we talked about tonight? Okay. Good. That'll bring us to
Thank you, everybody.
To the final public session, open to any item. Anybody from the public wish to address the board on any item? Seeing none, I'm going, Erica, yes? No, she's talking to Michael. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read the executive session resolution. Be resolved in accordance with provisions of Open Public Meetings Act, the Marlborough Township Board of Education shall conduct a closed executive session pursuant to personnel and legal exceptions prescribed by NJSA 10:4-12 for the purpose discussion of personnel matters. Anticipated the length of the time discussion will be 10 minutes, and action will not be taken in public after executive session. Further resolved that the minutes of executive session will be released when the need for confidentiality according to NJSA 10:4 no longer applies. Seconded by John. All in favor? Aye. Anybody against? No. I will make a motion to adjourn to executive session. Seconded by Craig. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, sir. Anybody against? No? Okay. We are adjourned to executive session. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.